With Knives Out, an extremely popular and successful representative of the so-called whodunit genre, was released shortly before the pandemic. The story by director and screenwriter Rian Johnson, which could undoubtedly have been written by Agatha Christie, centered on an unsolved death and the brilliant detective Benoit Blanc, played by Bond actor Daniel Craig. Shortly after the movie's release in early 2020, Johnson clarified that Knives Out had been planned as a trilogy and that they would like to continue Benoit Blanc's quirky adventures. Now that Johnson and his co-producer Ram Bergman have signed a $469 million deal with Netflix, initial information on the cast as well as the planned release of the sequel is available following the conclusion of production last September. Accordingly, Ethan Hawke, Dave Bautista, Jessica Henwick, Kate Hudson, and even Fight Club star Edward Norton are to be part of the cast in the upcoming installment. WandaVision actress Catherine Hahn and soul singer Janelle Monáe are among the cast as well. The top-class stars of the previous film, on the other hand, are no longer expected to be involved, since the story of the Thrombey family came to a close at the end of Part 1. There's still no info on the new story. However, the movie is scheduled for release on Netflix this fall. Last year, the movie adaptation of the action game of the same name, Mortal Kombat, was released. In fact, the blockbuster with its R rating only seemed to have convinced audiences to a mediocre degree, yet those in charge at New Line Cinema have decided to make a new attempt with a sequel. Moon Knight and Umbrella Academy author Jeremy Slater has been hired to tell the story, as the US magazine Deadline recently announced. Likewise, Dwayne Johnson spoke out and announced that he is currently working on another movie adaptation of a video game. It is supposed to be badass and brutal, which would fit pretty well with Mortal Kombat 2, even though Johnson has not explicitly mentioned the name so far. Sadly, there is no information on the plot and cast of the sequel yet, and it's also unknown whether director Simon McQuoid will be back. So for now, we will have to wait and see, but of course, we will keep you up to date on any news. Soon the time will come and we can again see Jason Statham in the sequel of Meg. The movie is titled Meg 2: The Trench and will feature Statham and the famous prehistoric giant shark Megalodon. Ben Wheatley will direct the film, which will be shot in 2 gigantic underwater tanks at Warner Brothers Studios. This means saying goodbye not only to New Zealand as a filming location, but also to John Turteltaub, who was the director of the first part. The movie is said to be strongly based on the second volume of the book by Steve Alton, and in addition to Statham as Jonas Taylor, will also bring back Chinese actress Li Bingbing as oceanologist Su Yingjian. It will be particularly exciting to see how director Wheatley realized the sequel, as he has not yet been able to gain any experience in the field of underwater horror. Regardless, we hope for many visually stunning scenes with a Megalodon and look forward to Meg 2: The Trench. An exact release date is not known as of yet, but we expect a release in the coming year. Following the box office success of Godzilla vs. Kong and its subsequent release on HBO Max, another streaming provider has now secured a share of the Monsterverse, as a series for Apple TV Plus is in production, which is to tie in with the story of the Godzilla solo film. The storyline focuses on a family that has an unsuspected connection to the monster world and gets to the bottom of it in the series. As the show progresses, they are also expected to encounter the sinister Monarch organization. Showrunner of the series is Star Trek Enterprise producer Chris Black, who will also be writing the script along with comic book author Matt Fraction. How legendary will continue the Monsterverse apart from the Apple TV Plus series is not known yet, but the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel, Son of Kong, is still on the agenda. In spring 2020, Disney announced work on a series adaptation of the popular Percy Jackson fantasy series, and now casting is said to have already started. Fans of the book series who have seen the 2 movies Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, and Percy Jackson Sea of Monsters are likely to be extremely skeptical about the planned series adaptation, as the movie spin-offs were not well received by either fans or critics. For the series, however, the prognosis is already looking a lot better, because on the one hand, book author and Percy Jackson creator Rick Riordan is heavily involved in the production, and on the other hand, Disney will make sure that the series also gets an appropriate budget. In fact, Riordan has even been signed on as a co-writer for the pilot episode. Aside from that, he will be overseeing the project as a producer together with his wife Rebecca Riordan. Broadly speaking, the Percy Jackson book series revolves around a contemporary world in which the well-known Greek deities exist and have now set up the Olympus not in Greece, but in New York City. As in the Greek myths, the gods have also given birth to all kinds of offspring, some of them with humans, which in turn makes the children demigods. One such demigod is the protagonist Percy Jackson, who may be mortal immortal, but has superpowers as the son of the sea god Poseidon. We're definitely eager to find out how the Disney Plus series unfolds. An official series start is not known yet, but we can likely expect a release in the coming year. The past week saw another setback for fans of the Mission Impossible series. According to news from The Hollywood Reporter, Paramount has decided to further delay Mission Impossible 7 and 8. The seventh part, which was planned for this September, will not be released until July 14, 2023, while Mission Impossible 8 will even have to be delayed until June 28, 2024. Whether the now almost unbearably long wait will be worth it for fans of the action series remains to be seen. With some spectacular reports about stunts and the return of several actors from the previous installments, such as Henry Czerny as Eugene Kittredge, they are trying to keep the fan in good spirits for the moment. When Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage was a guest star in comedian Mark Maron's WTF podcast a few days ago, no one would have thought that his statement on the upcoming Snow White film adaptation would make such massive waves. In a downright rant, Dinklage accused Disney of double standards with regard to the casting of the remake. On the one hand, they cast the Latin American actress Rachel Zegler as the protagonist, but on the other hand, they still intend to tell the story of the seven dwarfs who live in a cave. Even though the seven dwarfs in the Grimm fairy tale do not live in a cave but in an ordinary house, the 1.35 meter tall Dinklage fears a hurtful stereotypical portrayal of small people. If anything, he said they should go all in and revamp the entire story. Disney, in turn, reacted in a flash with a statement assuring that the stereotypes of the old animated film would no longer be used and that a different approach would be chosen. Internally, there is reportedly talk of magical creatures instead of seven dwarfs, as The Wrap reported. The politically correct remake will then hardly have anything in common with the classic from 1937. After all, Snow White's love interest, as it's officially called, is no longer a prince or huntsman, but a Robin Hood-like figure who steals from the rich and provides for his poor friends. So, what are your thoughts? Can Disney's Snow White remake win you over with its approach of not offending anyone? Or would you rather like to see a classic movie adaptation based on the 1937 model? Feel free to discuss with us in the comments. This week, we are happy to recommend our new original for Spider-Man 4 to all of you who have already seen Spider-Man No Way Home. Within barely 9 minutes, you will be up to date with the very latest news on the sequel. Besides that, you should not miss the final trailer of Uncharted on our channel.